Alright, well, as good as Now We're Only Falling Apart was, it did kind of completely eviscerate the script that I had about my zoo analysis. Which means that I need something else to talk about on this fine Theory Thursday. Just because I'm putting off all the rest of my stuff to deal with this Steven bomb doesn't mean I'm going to skip a theory. There was one question about the zoo, however, which has been left unanswered by the bomb, at least so far, which is also supported by evidence in the bomb itself. It's an idea that one of my Discord guests actually brought up a while ago, you know who you are, that I now believe more than ever is probably true. Now this is the point where I normally travel to some location relevant to the question I'm about to relay to you. But as I said before, this is about the human zoo. But while my ship does have a wormhole drive powerful enough to get me to another galaxy and therefore could take me to the human zoo, I really doubt that it has enough firepower to take on the collective forces of Homeworld, so I'm just going to stay away from there. Instead, let's head down to my projection room, so I can bring up a projection of the location instead. Much safer. Here we are in what seems to be Pink Diamond's lounge on the zoo. Could that be a whole bunch of bubbled rose quartz floating in the air? That's certainly interesting, isn't it? With every aspect of Rose's life that was further recontextualized by Now We're Only Falling Apart, I honestly think that the poofing and bubbling of every single rose quartz in order to help keep her cover was the worst thing that we know of that Pink Diamond ever did. We now know for a fact that the original faux rebellion was specifically initiated to try to intimidate the Diamonds off of Earth, under the assumption that if they were intimidated enough to leave, they would just take Pink with them, I guess. And what is more intimidating than Pink Diamond calling a meeting to order on her zoo space station in which she reveals that a rose quartz rebelled and is so dangerous that she had to discontinue the line and bubble every single other instance of that gem. The Diamonds may not care about common gems and therefore wouldn't care about a gem made in such numbers, but it would still be an eerie sight to them, seeing just how many gems, just how many potential resources Pink Diamond saw the need to effectively throw away, just because of one commoner, one gem that the Diamonds themselves never would have seen as a threat before this. Now obviously Blue and Yellow didn't find this intimidating enough, and honestly this is probably when, as purported by Garnet's version of events, they assumed that Pink was asking for their help and came to Earth to help defeat the rebellion. And so there is the chance that this actually made things worse, which makes things worse overall, because it means that Rose attacked and bubbled all these other gems for nothing. Except that after some offhanded stuff in A Single Pale Rose and Now We're Only Falling Apart, I'm reminded that Fluorite at one point said,
"Rose quartz isn't real."
What if this wasn't just a silly one-off statement meant to be taken humorously as the other statements by the off-colors in that same scene were? What if this was actually foreshadowing, and not foreshadowing that Rose was Pink Diamond as some people have said? Because regardless of what kind of gem she was, she still called herself Rose Quartz, and therefore was Rose Quartz, and therefore Rose Quartz did exist in that scenario. No, I think this is some very literal foreshadowing for the fact that Rose Quartz as a gem type didn't actually exist. This may sound ridiculous, as I am literally projecting an image of a whole bunch of rose quartz floating in bubbles behind me right now, until you remember that Rose had this ability. At the very least, she seems to have the ability to create non-living, reasonable facsimiles of real gems. And even if we assume that she can only make pink gemstones to go with her own coloration, rose quartz gemstones are pink. How hard would it have been, honestly, for her to create a bunch of false stones that were the same color as her gem and had a cut that was a cross between the cut of a normal quartz and the cut of the top of her own stone? It might have taken her some time, but she certainly could have done it. So we know, at the very least, that it is possible that she could have faked an entire line of gems to suit her purposes. But the timeline matches up with this idea too. It was suggested, again in Garnet's version of events, that rose quartz came before the amethyst that came later. So even the amethysts who emerged from the kindergarten could have been convinced that the rose quartz were all poofed and bubbled before they would have met them, and just came from another part of the kindergarten that they hadn't seen before. And it's not as if Blue and Yellow would know the color of the gems coming out of Pink Diamond's planet before they'd ever been there. But what really seals the idea, for me at least, that this is true, is the fact that even after Pink Diamond first created her rose quartz disguise, she wasn't rose quartz yet when she first went down to interact with the amethyst, despite the fact that her coloration was wrong and even the facets in her gem were wrong. She at first tried to blend in as another amethyst? If there was already a type of quartz available that she could have pretended to be with her exact detailing, why wouldn't she have pretended to be that gem from the beginning? Then there's dialogue later on which suggests that she and Pearl eventually came up with the identity of rose quartz together to explain her odd coloration to the diamonds during the rebellion. Who's to say that they didn't create the identity of all these false rose quartz at the same time? It's a really radical thought to have bumping around in your head that this gem type that we've known about since the beginning of the series isn't real. Not just that the one instance of it that we thought we knew isn't who she said she was, but that this entire gem type doesn't exist, that we will never see a rose quartz. But at this point, I think it's what fits the evidence the best, and honestly what fits Pink Diamond's characterization the best. I mean, she did care about her gems, so assuming that she did want to put on this charade behind me, would she have even wanted to take on the identity of a gem that already existed? But what do you guys think of this theory? Have I struck upon some hidden away truth, or do you have a piece of evidence that might burst my bubble? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord. Link in the description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.